Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Denes Boros, and today I want to show you an opening that is seldom played. However, it is quite dangerous and you can win in just 23 moves. That is 2b3, the Reti Gambit. Let's get into it. So in this position, White decides to go b3 and try to restrict this bishop on f8. We all know in the French this bishop on c8 is terrible. So Reti decided in his game, which actually introduced his gambit idea, to make a move such as b3 bishop b2 just to restrict the other bishop that's on f8. d5, obviously the main move, bishop b2, d takes e4, knight c3. Now, we are following one of my games, and I'm showing this game to you because you will learn and understand how aggressively you can play with this system, White. Now, if you look at this position, and you would rotate the board, you'd realize you're actually playing the Budapest attack, that is the Budapest Gambit, with the white pieces, as usually you sacrifice the e-pawn in those cases. Now f5 is never really a big problem in this position. Let's say instead of knight f6, f5, because in that case you can go f3, e takes, queen takes f3, and because of the weaknesses on e5 and these pawn weaknesses on e6 and f5, White has more than enough compensation. Knight f6 is mandatory, but then White can go queen e2, not only attack the pawn on e4, but prepare long castling. Knight d7, knight takes e4. Now this is the move I preferred in this game, but in the second game I played g4, which already shows how violent the Reti Gambit can get. Knight takes e4, bishop e7, knight f3, castles. And seemingly a humble little position, nothing's going on, but there is a bishop lurking on b2, putting pressure on that knight on f6 and on g7. So I realized, if I have a bishop on b2 lurking, why not just go play g4, g5? And that's exactly what I did. I played g4 here. Now if you take the pawn, there's rook g1 and I immediately have pressure on black's position. Black decided to take on e4, queen takes e4, bishop f6, d4. Obviously, we do not want to exchange pieces. The more attackers we have, the better. Rook b8, bishop d3. I take the opportunity to weaken the h7 pawn and induce g6. Long castle. Job's done. There's a weakness on this side of the board, so I long castle. b6, h4. You have to go for it in the Reti Gambit, and just what I do. Bishop b7, queen e3, takes, bishop h4. Now, even in these positions where you're down a pawn, but you have attacking chances, it's good to be cautious. So in this position, I played king b1 just to be safe. Queen f6. Do I really want to exchange queens? Of course not. g5, trying to close it up, but not on my watch. I'm going f4 and trying to open it up as quickly as possible. h6, d5. Look at those bishops firing away. Queen takes f4, d takes e6, f takes e6. And seemingly the worst is over for my opponent, but it turns out to be checkmate in a couple of moves. So I am going to relax a little bit, give you a bit of time to think. And it is White to move and checkmate black. So after taking a little pause, you can acknowledge that if you could get that queen to g6, that would be checkmate. So I played bishop h7 check. The king cannot go here, because then there's rook f1 and I win the queen. King f7, then there's rook f1. And after king takes h7, I have this beautiful little triangle with my queen. And after the queen arrives right there, it is just checkmate. Queen d3 check. Anything else loses material. Queen g6 is checkmate. This is actually the reason I'm kind of a big fan of the Reti Gambit, and I've been scoring heavily, over 80% in my online games, just winning in 20-30 moves. Why? Because it's a straightforward opening and you can go attack. So let's take a look at another way of playing this position. What if I'm not in the mood of going knight d7, knight takes e4, but go g4? This is the other way of playing, and that's what I played. h6, bishop g2, knight c5, pawn castles. Yes, I'm not trying to take that pawn. In fact, I want to sacrifice another pawn because I believe in the long run my activity will bring me compensation. c6, f3. Pawns don't matter. What matters is active piece play. He takes f3, knight takes f3, queen a5. Just sidestepping any x-ray ideas from this rook. Rook e1. Now this king is still in the middle, so I'm trying to undermine that. Bishop e7. But as black is preparing short castles, I play h4. Point being, I want to play g5 in case of short castles. And then I will have a very, very strong attack. So my opponent took on g4, but that runs into d4. Knight a6, d5. And even though I'm down 2 pawns, black's so passive, there is no real way of defending. C takes d5, rook takes d5. Obviously, taking the rook is taboo, because there's queen e7 checkmate. And if you go queen b6, there's this very nice move of knight d4. Castle, you can go knight a4, queen c7, queen g4, ed, knight f5. With a big, big attack, as there are 3 pieces attacking the g7 pawn, not to mention the e7 bishop. So in this position, my opponent played queen b4, but this runs into a beautiful geometrical idea, which I'll give you a little time to figure out on your own. And yes, the move is rook d4. Very nice little geometrical idea. And suddenly, either black loses the queen, loses the knight. My opponent basically gave up with queen d4, knight d4, and knight f5. He takes f5, it leads to checkmate again. And otherwise the attack is just crushing, and I'm up a queen. And in case of queen a5, I have rook takes a g4. But as I said, queen d4, knight knight f6, knight f5. The game ended as black resigned. So I really hope you enjoyed this lecture on the Reti Gambit. There is more to follow. And I really enjoy doing lectures on these ones. So if you have any questions about the Reti Gambit, please post your questions below. And see you next time.